hi everyone, it's been a little bit. Bill Worster, aka Zazubaar. Joining me, of course, Dylan McCandless, Super DM64.
Stroke victims also, like, half their face goes, "Nah," like...
Dylan, we're supposed to be talking about Godzilla Odyssey, not stroke victims.
Right, yeah, sorry.
Maybe we could talk about, like, stroke victims of, like, people who masturbate too hard and they, like, get carpal tunnel. Like, that's fine. But, you know...
Okay, so these stroke victims, right?
So we have to, we have to incorporate it into Godzilla somehow, so we'll figure that out as we go. So it's been a little bit since we've done one of these, since before we brought back all the podcasts, and we've been doing that for a little bit, so this has been long overdue, obviously. But we're back again. Godzilla is going to be dropping into another dimension today. This is another one that we never wrote, but we had some outlined ideas for. Maybe just to catch everybody up for those of you who maybe don't remember what's been going on in the series since it's been a little bit. We've been doing this for like half a year now, longer than that. Dylan, do you maybe want to let people know some of the highlights of what Godzilla's journey through the multiverse has wrought?
What is this, by the way? Is this like 8? Is this the 8th one?
I think this is 7. I believe this is 7.
7, okay. Yeah, so Godzilla has been to a number of alternate dimensions. Hold on, let me open the list, because that always helps me get this shit mixed up in my head.
I shouldn't have asked you to do this, because I remember it by heart, so I mean, I feel like I should do it.
Do you? Well, I remember.
No, you know what? Go through the playlist. Bring up some memories, man. Look at the playlist and tell the story. Tell the Godzilla Odyssey story so far. Don't be too long though. We got things to do tonight.
First of all, Godzilla went to the Showa universe and he met himself, you know, and it was pretty intense. And then he went...
Wait, hang on. We have to work in the stroke victims from earlier. So when Godzilla met himself, he thought it was like, well, it's not gay when you jerk yourself off if you travel back in time because it's basically just masturbation. So you know what? This might be the only shot that I get to do that. And I mean, it is an alternate universe, so it's not really me. But you know what? Fuck it, man. When it's alternate dimensions, it's not gay. So Godzilla became a stroke victim of himself.
That's always been my justification. So then he went to the Dragon Ball Z universe, and it was a lot of fun. The power scaling was all over the place, but whatever. And then,
as if when he jerked himself off, it wasn't fun.
Indeed. Then he went to the Pacific Rim universe, and some shenanigans ensued. There were original kaiju, which is a thing that we had done for the first time in the series, but won't be the last. Woohoo! What else? Then we did Marvel, and that was a real clusterfuck because we still don't even really have 100% know what that is yet. But we tossed around some ideas.
Well, we know it's the Defenders, Hulk's involved, Submariner, Doctor Strange.
Galactus has to be involved because he's on.
Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer. I mean, the crux of it is Godzilla versus Galactus. Yeah.
We knew who all we want. We know who all we want to be involved with it. It's just the details are a bit fucked up.
Well, we didn't come up with a story. Like, we just had Godzilla drop into the midst of this. And I mean, I feel like maybe that's the beauty of the Marvelness of it, is like the Marvel method. I think we talked about this in that video, so you can go back. And you should go back and listen to them. They're all fun podcasts. When you get the two of us together and we start talking about Godzilla jerking himself off, it's always a good time. But
if I had a nickel,
but the kind of insane of the moment, like, it doesn't really make sense. It's not very well thought out story. I feel like it's very Marvel, so I feel like that would have been appropriate, even if we didn't have a cohesive thing planned out when we wrote it. And we probably wouldn't have given our track records. Anyway, so what happened then, Dylan? Where did he go next?
Next was issue 5, which was the sort of not crossover episode where he went into like a dream dimension and was tortured by Gabra for 20-something pages, which was just a lot of fun to write. Then
in a way, it was
6...
a crossover of different Godzilla continuities, I guess, maybe? And this was why we kind of did the reboot. Well, not the reboot, but why we did our own Godzilla and we didn't use a pre-existing one.
there was some confusion early on as to whether or not we were using the Megaguirus version of Godzilla, but no,
Right.
we're not. Dimension Tide is just a plot device used to get him into the situation. It already exists in more than one Godzilla continuity because it existed in that IDW book, fucking Half Century War. So it clearly already exists across multiple continuities anyway. So there you go.
Exactly.
And then last was number 6, in which it was a Power Rangers crossover, in which Bill threw out a bunch of Power Rangers ideas, and I was like, yeah, do that. So,
Which I came up with mostly like that week because we were planning to do it for a few days, and I came up with it kind of over the course of those 2 days, those couple of days. I liked what I came up with, though. I liked the idea of largely focusing in on the relationship between the villains and the Rangers. But yeah, so it's been a bit, but that's the kind of state of things as they are. Godzilla is out of the Power Rangers universe. I believe at the he was about to blow up Zed's palace. So when...
Also, more importantly, there's been a bit of a character change going on over the course of these issues. Our Godzilla starts out as a very classic sort of destroy all humans type Godzilla with those sorts of motivations. And then as time goes on, he transitions into a more heroic version of Godzilla. And as I've said on multiple occasions, by the time we get to the finale, he does potentially the most heroic thing any Godzilla will ever do. Ever. But at the moment, he's sort of transitioning. A little bit of that happens in issue 5 when he's undergoing his psychological torture at the hands of Gabra. So now he's not quite a superhero Godzilla yet, but he is sort of more anti-heroic.
He's done things. He helped the show version in his fight with Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
And in the Pacific Rim issue, he helped repel those bad kaiju at the end. So he has done some good things. But at the end of the day, he causes a lot of damage. In the Power Rangers issue, he killed a lot of people when he was dropped in the middle of Angel Grove. But importantly, in that, we tried to make as much of it not his fault as possible. So Zed drops him into the middle of Angel Grove because he wants to fuck with the Rangers because they know that they're going to be thrown off by it. And Godzilla prior to that had just appeared on Zed's planet, on the moon, which is kind of Zed's planet. And then you go from there. So we are definitely trying to make him less aggressive, maybe less proactively evil, maybe is the way to describe it. And maybe this one is not the best example of that with today's issue, because based on the ideas we came up with for it. So to finally get to today's crossover, in issue 7 of Godzilla Odyssey, Godzilla's next stop off is the DC universe. So we talked about Marvel earlier, which we took to the cosmic realm, in space with Galactus and everything, because that's what Dylan and I really love about the Marvel universe, is the cosmic insanity. But with DC,
there are sort of 3 facets to Marvel, and my favorite isn't even the superhero one. Like the cosmic shit and also the supernatural shit I find way more interesting than even the superhero shit that goes on, even though I prefer the Marvel superhero shit overall to the DC superhero shit, with the exception of Batman. But one of the major reasons we did that is that, having Godzilla show up on Earth and fight the Avengers would have been fun, but it's also been done before, back when Marvel had the Godzilla license in the 70s. However, Godzilla has never gone to the DC universe and fought the Justice League.
No, he has not. And it has had the potential to happen. In the 90s, when Godzilla was at Dark Horse and DC were doing a lot of crossovers. So if Toho would have okayed it, we could have seen like a Batman Godzilla or a Superman Godzilla. Superman Godzilla always made more sense to me.
Yeah.
But with DC,
it could happen now if like DC and IDW did some sort of like collaboration.
Toho would never allow it though, because if they couldn't do what else does IDW have that would make sense to cross over? Like, if they couldn't have done a Mars Attacks Godzilla, because they probably would have loved to have done that when they did that series, when they did the whole Mars Attacks Ghostbusters, Mars Attacks Transformers, all of those. They probably did go to Toho. I didn't like ask Chris Mowry this or anything when I the couple of times that I've talked to him, but I presume, like, because why wouldn't you? Like, that would be awesome to have the aliens from Mars Attacks fight Godzilla. But I don't think Toho will be okay with that. They just don't seem to want to alter to risk altering people's perspective of Godzilla, maybe, by introducing other elements into it that might spoil it. I don't think that's necessarily like true. I just think that that's their mindset, and I think that recently they've maybe shown to not feel that way so much anymore. I mean, we're getting a remake of King Kong versus Godzilla, so I think that things are changing for the better. I never thought we'd get that.
We're getting that. We're getting a fucking Godzilla anime. They greenlit Shin Godzilla, which says a lot in and of itself.
I mean, Shin Godzilla is obviously the most radical Godzilla movie Toho has ever made, in my opinion. I think it's more radical than the original. I don't think many people would disagree with me on that. And if they do, I think they're wrong. Because I mean, you just compare Ashiro Honda to Hideki Anno, and there are definite parallels that Anno is trying to recapture in his movie, but he is a way more radical director than Honda is. I mean, just watch his anime.
And DC is kind of dipping their toe into crossing their characters over with like tokusatsu type shit right now because they're doing the Power Rangers Justice League thing.
I was just about to say, I think that this is well timed because currently Justice League and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers just came out today, number 1. And I've heard nothing but good things about it so far.
Yeah, if that winds up being super successful and critically well received across the board, maybe the dollar signs will become too much for Toho to ignore. But again, this would all be.
I don't think they care about that though. For IDW's comics.
Yeah, I don't understand Japanese companies. They seem to be less motivated by the whole money thing. I'm like, how do you even function?
Because they're more about reputation.
Yeah, it's dumb, right?
So why don't we get into this? We've been doing a lot of preamble. So the fun of putting Godzilla into the DC universe is obviously you get to do your traditional Godzilla fights a big team of superhero stories against a big team of superheroes that he's never gotten to go up against, but people have always wanted him to see. Everybody's always wanted to see what would happen if Superman met Godzilla.
Yeah. The first question we have to address is which DC universe are we working with here?
I wondered a lot about that. The Justice League Power Rangers crossover seems to be like a sort of genericified version of the current DC Rebirth canon. And I think that that's smart for the comics, but for us, not being guys who are keeping current with DC Rebirth, even though I feel like I should be, because I've heard nothing but good things about the stuff that I care about. Like, I've heard Superman's really good, I've heard Batman's really good, so I should get into that. But I haven't. But I feel like for our purposes, given what we know and everything, I think that we should stick it in the DC animated universe.
Yeah, that's certainly the one that you and I are most familiar with, which is why we used that as the basis for our Wouldn't It Be Fucking Interesting If segment that last time.
Exactly. On DFOS. I mean, I know DC Comics, quite a bit of it, but it'd be a matter of which time period we're picking then.
Time period, timeline, Earth. Which Earth is it set on? Like, so many questions.
Well, the beauty of the current continuity and why I want to get into it is that it's kind of the best of everything. Like, they've got the John Byrne Man of Steel Superman kind of as their Superman right now. So, and they've got a very kind of like a current Batman who's done everything that Batman's done in the past 20 years. Kind of Batman. So, it's kind of perfect. So that's why I was if I was familiar with that, we would have done that. But because I'm not reading that currently, and I wish I was, we're going to do the DC animated universe. It doesn't really matter though, because we're working with a very kind of, if you know Justice League at all, you will get this.
Yeah. similar to what we did really with our version of Godzilla. He's just supposed to be. It's very similar to what you were just describing with what DC's doing with their characters. The Odyssey Godzilla is just sort of a generic Godzilla who's sort of been through all the things that happened in the movies, but like not in any of those specific continuities.
And when we say generic, we don't mean like, oh, it's bland. We mean it's identifiable based on a thing that people are very familiar with.
He has a history. He's already fought his own version of Ghidra and Gigan and all that shit. Maybe a few things haven't happened in his continuity just for the sake of the stories that we would want to tell. At some point, we should probably like make out a timeline of what has happened to him pre going on the Odyssey.
Maybe that would be the way to extend this series: is do a Godzilla timeline.
Yeah, maybe we just produce a bunch of stories in our, again, generic Godzilla universe, as much as the term generic applies, and then Odyssey is just like a part of that, instead of being the whole package.
Yeah, for sure. We've talked about it before. We've talked about expanding this Godzilla stories out before, but we got to get this video series done first. This podcast
Seriously.
series, more aptly described. But we keep dancing around all this. So, and I mean, we didn't have a lot of details planned out for this one. But more so than the Marvel one, I feel, though. I feel like we talked about this one more early on. But also, this one has more history, though. For you and I in particular. Because you and I talked about a long time ago doing a Batman-Godzilla audio drama. Where Godzilla would attack Gotham City and Batman would deal with it. And there would also be the reintroduction of classic Batman film serial villain Dr. Daka, who would somehow who would have been a contemporary of Dr. Serizawa, right? And would have been the one responsible for bringing Godzilla to Gotham.
He's mostly in the story because he's a favorite of mine, but yeah, that was going to be our justification for it.
Favorite from that one racist film serial, Marvelous.
Yes, I fucking love that. Like, I wish they would bring that character back.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
You can de-racist.
We might be able to do him in this somehow. I mean, it might be weird. I mean, it's weird to have Godzilla go to another universe. Well, I mean, we did it in the first one, though. I was going to say it'd be weird to put him in another universe, and no, he's with Japanese people, like, oh, just like he is in his normal universe. But sure, why not?
Damn it, if I ever made it into a position where I could write something for DC, that would be my contribution, is bringing back Dr. Daka. Damn it, if Harley Quinn could become part of the established canon, then why not the first on-screen Batman villain?
Well, why don't we tell the kind of rough ideas we had for the story, and then we can see if we can work Dr. Daka in some capacity. But again, just there was precedent for this. The opening, which we came up.
Do you remember in that original idea we had for a Batman Godzilla crossover? Do you remember the Bat Kaiju that we created?
Yes, I was about to say there was a half bat, half Godzilla hybrid that Dr. Daka was going to use to fight Godzilla. And then at the end, I think Batman would have helped Godzilla in some way to stop it. Because you got to do that at some point. Although I don't think we're going to do that in this one. Maybe.
It would be too hard to try and work all that into this one, because this one isn't specifically a Batman Godzilla crossover. This is
but I do feel like we should work a little bit of that in, because that was just always what I wanted to see. I always just wanted to see Godzilla attack Gotham City. I always just thought that was a really interesting idea. So that's part of it, as we may indicate. But it doesn't open that way. The opening we came up with for this specifically, but it was largely your idea. So why don't you tell them how this was supposed to open?
Okay, so the idea I had for how to start the story is Godzilla pops up not in on the surface. He first pops up in the ocean and like winds up attacking Atlantis. And so you open the story with Aquaman coming up to the mainland to warn the rest of the Justice League that shit's coming. And if you wanted to do the Godzilla attacking Gotham thing, then maybe we could have it to where Batman isn't there when Aquaman is warning them about that. Maybe he's like in Gotham City doing some Bruce Wayne shit, and then bam, fucking Godzilla appears. Like, I always imagined personally when we were talking about that Godzilla Batman crossover back in the day, I always imagined a scene where like you have Bruce Wayne at like some like fucking like party, like Bruce Wayne would have to go to, the kind that you saw in like fucking Dark Knight Rises or the fucking
Every Batman run ever opens with Bruce Wayne at some kind of function.
Exactly, that's kind of what I was thinking of. Or the party he's having at his house in Mask of the Phantasm, something along those lines. And then just like he hears a noise, looks out the window, and just sees fucking Godzilla coming out of the harbor, and then it's like,
yeah, I agree. I think the spontaneity of it is cool. So yeah, maybe Aquaman. Well, I feel like we should do it where Aquaman is injured. So what I think should have happened is Godzilla pops up in Atlantis and just starts wrecking shop. Aquaman draws him away, tries to fight him on his own, and it does not go well. And he ends up in Gotham. Maybe not on purpose. That's the thing. How do they end up in Gotham? Like, how do we go from Atlantis to Gotham? Like, how far away? Like, what's that distance?
Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, Atlantis is in the Atlantic Ocean, obviously, and Gotham is on the East Coast, so it's not really a stretch. All you got to do is, Godzilla swam.
I feel like we need, but that's so convenient that he goes from one superhero city to another. Why? There's got to be something in Gotham that he wants.
Because it's the DC universe, and you can't shake a stick without hitting a superhero city.
Does the Batcave have a nuclear reactor in it? But I feel like if he was going to go for a nuclear reactor, he would go to Metropolis. Like, there's probably a lot more of those there, because that's where LexCorp is and everything.
I don't know. That's a good question. Okay, so we got to cook up some reason why he pops up.
Why does he go to Gotham? That's why I think we need some kind of Dr. Daka or something. Okay, this is a crazy idea. But I'm going to throw it out there.
Problem is, why does Dr. Daka, if theoretically we put Dr. Daka in the story, and he attracts Godzilla to Gotham, because that was the idea for that original Batman-Godzilla crossover that we were going to do back in the day, why does he know that Godzilla exists? Because in that original...
yes, you're right.
In that original story that we had, the idea was that he knew about Godzilla from back in the day. This took place in like a weird hybrid universe where like 54 happened, but also like Gotham City is a thing. You know what I mean? So, but in this case, Godzilla is like an interdimensional traveler, so it doesn't really make sense.
I got it. Dr. Daka is not a person, but a hierarch in disguise who has been assigned by the council to go to the DC universe, get Godzilla to do this, to go to Gotham City and level it, because he wants Godzilla to further, to give Godzilla further, to give people, the hierarchy in particular, reason to kill Godzilla or to end his reign violently if necessary, by any means necessary. To motivate.
Maybe the idea is to bring Godzilla into conflict with the Justice League in order to get Godzilla killed.
That's even better. So, let's say the hierarchs...
Well, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I don't know if that would fly if we're using the DC animated universe, because we're talking about a version of Superman that isn't like the all-powerful god that he is in the fucking comics.
He's pretty big at that point, though. Like, he's stronger in Justice League than he is in Superman TAS, and he fights a kind of Godzilla-esque thing in Superman TAS. There's some big monster that comes from the moon, and he fights that. And
Isn't there a giant at one point?
There's oh man, what's his name?
Yeah, I remember watching a fucking episode
Giganto.
Yeah, I remember watching an episode of Superman TAS when I was a kid and being like, is that a monkey?
Yeah. Yeah, I always enjoyed that. I always enjoyed him. He was like Lois Lane's pet or whatever. I guess the Lane family liked having some pet monkeys.
He was like a chimp, turned into like a giant gorilla. And like now I look back on that and I'm like, was that a Congo reference? Was this Superman versus Congo?
I feel like one element of the Justice League that we should address here is their kind of spread out nature. So maybe everybody gets caught off guard with this, because the hierarchy wants Godzilla to get the chance to really do some damage.
Now, remind me, because it's been a while since I've watched the Justice League cartoon. Do they still have the Watchtower when it's all over? Because I know they get the Hall of Justice at the end of the cartoon, so is that now their base of operations, or do they have both? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Well, I was thinking we do this during the original 7 period, not during the Unlimited period.
Okay.
So yeah, they would have the Watchtower.
So our title card is completely meaningless.
Oh, that. You're right. All right, so we're gonna have to set it at the end during the Unlimited time. I guess that would make more sense for the Hierarchs anyway, since I guess they would want more Justice League members to try and kill Godzilla. But I was just thinking, for simplicity's sake, like I would just want it to be the original 7.
Yeah. What if we set it in the Super Friends continuity?
Oh, dude.
You could throw the Legion of Doom in there.
We could. I mean, we're already doing our own Godzilla. I mean, we could do our own DC universe that's just kind of a rough approximation.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's a mix of the comics and the modern comics and the animated version. That's what it's a mix of.
Very good. Well then, fuck it. I'm calling it right now. It's like a weird mixture, animated universe / comic book / movie universe.
So they have both the Hall of Justice and the Watchtower.
They have the original 7 members and the Wonder Twins.
Well, let's say they have the original 7 members and everybody else, but the original 7 are the only ones that are on call. Everybody else is just like if we really need them. And I also think we should play with is like the Justice League isn't used to something like this being this hard, because they don't fight giant monsters that have like spunk and personality like Godzilla does, you know?
Oh my god, we gotta have Dr. Daka working in concert with the Legion of Doom, because we can't not have the Legion of Doom. The Legion of Doom is like my favorite thing ever. So, they live in a Darth Vader head that comes out of the swamp.
Well, so D, what I was thinking we should do is we should have Dr. Daka also have however Dr. Daka is having Godzilla approach Gotham, it should be in Arkham Asylum.
Like a device of some kind.
Yes, like a satellite or something, like something to just piss him off and get him angry.
A bird call generator.
Exactly. Godzilla can show up and be like, "Where's all the birds at, man?" And then he's just confused. Because if he did that, Batman would be 10 times more motivated to try and kill him.
I heard a bird. It sounded pretty.
I definitely think that Dr. Daka should be like, I picked Gotham because I knew that if any of you was going to be the one to actually do it, it was going to be Batman. Either Batman or Green Lantern. Maybe, no. Let's say he thought Aquaman first, because especially in the animated series, Aquaman was the wild card. He was like the Wolverine.
Yeah, I always liked that about that Aquaman.
Yeah, me too.
I hope they take that act with him in fucking...
So he only fucks with people's shit when his shit's fucked with. So it would definitely be an element of like, he comes to Gotham and is like, listen, I usually don't like to fuck with you guys, but I got fucked up. Like, I need help.
Also, I'm not familiar with Aquaman in the comics, but in the animated universe, it always struck me that like he was a little bit of a Namor ripoff. Like, I don't know if that's present in the comics, the whole like grumpy Atlantean king thing.
Well, they're the same character basically. They're both half human, half Atlantean. Well, I mean, Namor's a mutant. Arthur Curry is just half Atlantean, half human.
Yeah.
But Arthur Curry started off as a human and then went to Atlantis. Namor was the opposite. So I think that but I think the way we would do it is our Aquaman would have done that very young, like maybe like 15. He would have gone back to Atlantis, maybe between 15 and 18, been through his origin, and now he's like 30, 35. And he's been king of the seas for like 10 years or whatever.
His whole fucking origin and shtick and everything. He's basically just undersea Superman, isn't he? Like,
not really. I mean, he is a Namor rip. Well, initially, yes. Yeah. So we're talking like Silver Age Aquaman, yeah, sure. But I'm talking like Peter David Aquaman, like 90s Aquaman.
Yeah. So there's classic like Super Friends era swimming around in his tights on like.
Well, he was
super
Captain Planet. He was Captain Planet. He was kind of like the proto Captain Planet. He would go around stopping polluters and poachers and bad fishermen and people who'd beat up seals and shit. Like that's what he would do.
Yeah, and at some point DC was like, "Hey, look, Marvel has a similar character, but he's like all grumpy and he hates humanity and he's really interesting. Let's do that."
And I mean, they're not the same character because Aquaman is way more about I have to run this kingdom well. Namor doesn't give a fuck. He just does whatever he wants. He's very passionate. Aquaman's very rational, and that's part of the problem. Is that if he was more passionate, maybe he would give a shit about everybody else in the world. But because he's not, but because he's more rational and more cold as a ruler of his kingdom, he's more well, if I can keep this city afloat, even though it's not, it's sunk, then that's all I got to do. So I feel like they are different characters. I like Aquaman a lot more than I like Namor because of that, because he's more measured, he's more reasonable.
Yeah, but Namor's he's never supposed to be likable, really.
No, he's always been an anti-hero. He's always been, your sort of Hulk character where he's just kind of always on a rampage. Aquaman's obviously more of your traditional superhero, even when he is more radical. He's always fighting for the greater good. But I like that we're so into Aquaman. Like, that's the thing. I don't really understand how people are like, "Oh, fuck Aquaman, he sucks." I'm like, I think he's really interesting.
I like DCAU Aquaman.
but that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. I think that there's a lot of potential with Aquaman. I think there's a lot of potential with the idea of a guy who protects the ocean as vehemently as Batman protects Gotham City. I think that's really interesting.
I've never given a fuck about any other version of Aquaman, but the DCAU managed to make that character that had always sort of been a joke in my colloquial circles, and they made him interesting. So hopefully the movies are able to do the same thing.
I think they're going to do a different thing with him. I think they're going to make him more like a Wolverine type. He'll probably be more Namor than he is traditional Aquaman, because it doesn't look like he's ruling Atlantis in Justice League. It looks like he's just still fucking around.
Possibly.
I don't think he's going to be the ruler of Atlantis until we see him in his own movie at the very
end. He's all disheveled and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's like Namor that time that like the Fantastic Four found him and he had like amnesia and he was like living in an old folks home. Or not an old folks home.
I don't remember that, but that sounds like something that Marvel would do.
No, he wasn't in an old folks home. He was in like a homeless like shelter. Like he was just like he was just like, and then they like restored his memory. Destroyed.
I feel like at the end of the day, though, and maybe this is just for me, it's got to come down to a fight between Godzilla and Superman. Aquaman gets a slugfest with him. Batman gets his time to defend his city at the beginning. He's obviously trying to reel in Arkham. And then I feel like he's the one talking to Dr. Daka. And Dr. Daka is lying to him about who he is, so that way he can feed Batman all this reason to try and kill Godzilla.
I think it's going to be a big fight between Godzilla and really the whole seven, Sort of like what they did at the end of BVS, but even bigger, because it's Godzilla and all seven of them.
Well, I feel like that's what it needs to get to at the end. But I feel like I want like at least 2 pages where it's just Superman and Godzilla squaring off.
And we do...
Do you cut off?
Probably. I did.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The version of Godzilla we've established in these stories is, at least in terms of like fighting prowess, sort of on a little bit of a higher level than a lot of the movie Godzillas. I mean, he squared off with Goku, for crying out loud. So yeah, I think that'd be a pretty good fight.
But yeah, I definitely want to see Wonder Woman. Obviously, you definitely want to see fight Godzilla. She might even be more proficient at it than Superman, probably. And then Green Lantern even. So I think once you get all 7 in there, I think at the end of the day, Batman's going to be like, this was a hatchet, this was a manipulation on Dr. Daka's part. Godzilla was bamboozled into doing this. We just got to... We're going
to be like, who the fuck is Dr. Daka?
Well, and Superman will be like, I think we should contain this thing anyway, because that's Superman's whole thing. He doesn't want to kill anything if he doesn't have to. He will if he has to. But if he doesn't have to, he won't. And he knows. That's what I always like about Superman is he knows when enough is enough. Like there will be Superman stories, especially in like the 70s and the 60s and shit, where he'll just be like, "All right, it's time for some genocide." Like this situation demands some genocide.
Realistically, the end of the story probably just winds up like Superman giving Godzilla a laser lobotomy, but we can't do that because we've got several more issues.
But he wouldn't do that because, again, he knows that Godzilla's been manipulated into it at the end. But I also, again, I feel like we should definitely play up Aquaman and Batman both have this personal vendetta against Godzilla because of what he did to their cities, despite the whole, manipulation thing. Like, they don't really care. But, yeah, I mean...
You've got the Martian Manhunter in the mix, right? And he can do one of his, like, Martian Manhunter-y, I'm totally not Spock, I promise, mind meldy things with Godzilla and be like, oh shit, he's not such a bad guy.
Exactly. I think Martian Manhunter and I think Batman should be like, John, I want you to try and... No, John should probably do that on his own. I feel like John is the kind of guy who'd be like, I should probably figure out what this thing's motivations are. And he should have a very dramatic mind meld with Godzilla. You want to do Hawk Girl in there too? I mean, we could throw somebody else in there. We could do Cyborg. We could do
Yeah, I don't really want to do Hawk Girl.
Yeah, so
let's do the in our version of the DC universe, that story that happened in the DCAU where she wound up leaving the team because of dramatic reasons. Let's just have that has already happened.
Well, she comes back very quickly though.
Fuck it.
She's back next season.
Yeah.
I binged that show at one point. It's been a while, but I remember it pretty well, and I remember that she comes back pretty quickly.
I rewatched it a few years back as well. I should probably do it again, honestly.
I think the Justice League is probably, of all their shows, it's the one that's the most mature, because they knew that the people who were watching it were older, and they're like, it works for, like, I watched it when I was a kid, and I enjoyed it, but it's one of those shows that I watched as an adult, and I'm like, this works as a drama on a level that I did not appreciate as a kid. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, as a child who was watching that show and not necessarily reading the DC comics, it made me fall in love with, like, Amanda Waller. Like, they really nailed her.
Well, I started to, and then I started to not like things about Justice League. I think Justice League has an interesting but problematic interpretation of the Death of Superman arc. It's fucking awesome. It's good, because it mixes a couple of different Superman stories into one. But I would have liked to have seen a traditional Death of Superman story with that Superman, and we didn't get that.
My favorite thing they ever did was the Justice Lords thing.
Yeah, that's a traditional Justice League thing. Like that's the Crime Syndicate of America Earth 2 story. Just, I think it's a lot scarier because they're not straight up just, we're criminals, they're like, we are the moral high ground.
Yeah, I fucking love that.
So we gotta fill in that 7th slot. So I do definitely want to do Jon Stewart Green Lantern, though. I'd like to leave him in there.
Okay, so you get the big three, obviously. You get the big three, obviously. You get your Batman, your Superman, your Wonder Woman. Then you got your Martian.
Martian Manhunter, John Jones. I'd like to do Wally West Flash.
You got Flash.
Dude, you're cutting out a lot. Maybe we should turn off webcams.
I am?
Yeah, I think we should turn off the webcams. I think it's affecting... What?
Am I still cutting out?
No, you're okay now.
Okay.
Let's turn off webcams, though, because that'll improve the quality.
All right.
You'll have to miss my beautiful face. Anyway.
What was I talking about? That's 6. So now we can...
Sorry, it happened again, and it distracted me. Anyway, it's good now. So, oh, fuck. So, okay. So we gotta fill out that 7th slot. So it's the cartoon Justice League, except we don't want to do Hawk Girl. We have options, though. Oh, wait. the original 7: Flash, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, John Jones, and then Aquaman. Okay, so that is 7. So we're good.
Oh yeah, Aquaman.
I forgot that Aquaman wasn't one of the original 7 initially. He was a later addition. So we're good. We got the 7. And then there's members. So we could say like Hawkgirl's out there. She's just not there.
If the main conflict of the story is happening in Gotham City, you could also always throw in like a Robin or a Nightwing or something like that.
Yeah, I think they'd have to be there helping out with the evacuations and everything. I want most of the story to be about a superhero universe dealing with an unmotivated monster attack. Well, I mean, it is motivated. At the end of the day, it is kind of a supervillain plot, but it's different. Because Godzilla's not the kind of character that just kind of shows up and acts like a dumb animal. He's got an agenda, he's got spunk, and he's got fire, and he's not easily killed, and he's not easily deterred. So I think that he's a real force to be reckoned with against the Justice League. And I feel like Gotham City being put through something like this would be interesting. Like, how does Jim Gordon react to a Godzilla attack? How does the Joker react? Like, what happens when all the Arkham inmates get out? So at a certain point, you've got, like, the Bat family and the police and Batman, like, fighting the Arkham inmates on the street. Superman and the Justice League fighting Godzilla. And Dr. Daka manipulating it all. And then Batman trying to figure out what's going on with Dr. Daka. John Jones mind melds with Godzilla, figures out what's going on. So I feel like the only ones that need maybe more stuff to do are Flash, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern. Green Lantern, I feel like, is the one who should be the one to contain Godzilla. I feel like Batman, maybe not Batman, maybe John Jones himself should be like, listen, I've got an idea. You guys have just got to get him in the right position, and I can lock him up in like a big vault or something. Because he's Green Lantern, he can basically do anything.
The other thing we got to figure out is, like, what are we doing with Euclid in this story?
He got pulled away from the assignment, and he's kind of been on trial by the hierarchy.
Right, so is he still dealing with that, I guess?
Yes, and they sent out the Dr. Daka hierarch because they want this to happen while he's away without his interference, so that way when he gets back into it, they can just be like, well, listen, you've got to kill him now because this has gone too far, is basically what they want.
Maybe after this, he can come back and initiate. What we could do is we could have the Dr. Daka thing blow up in their faces. It kind of creates something of a scandal, and so he's sort of reinstated because the guy who was in charge is kind of like out of it now, you know?
Yeah, that'd be cool. So I feel like we've kind of got it. The kind of bubbling ideas for the plot. I like that we're kind of keeping it simple. It's a very kind of basic, giant monster attacks a city and the superheroes try to stop him. But because it's Godzilla and because it's the Justice League, there's a lot of wrinkles in there that I think will provide for good drama. And the hierarch story on top of it will obviously make things a little deeper. But I also feel like there will be interesting kind of conflict between the Justice League members, because I feel like Batman's going to be like, we should kill this thing, we have to. After what it's done, it's too dangerous to be left alive. And he knows that Superman's going to be against it, so maybe he's actively trying to avoid Superman and trying to coerce Superman to not get involved. Like, I feel like maybe Batman should be like, alright, Clark's doing this, I'm gonna fuck with his senses with my satellites or whatever and get him to not come here and get involved so I can kill Godzilla. Maybe Batman calls Wonder Woman and is like, listen, Clark's gonna try and get us to stop killing Godzilla. I know you'll be on board, though. I think we have to do this for the good of humanity. Come help me do this. So Wonder Woman comes and helps Batman fight Godzilla. They're kind of having a go at it for a while. Then Superman shows up and helps Wonder Woman. Like, she's about to get, like, crushed or whatever. Or not, like, killed, but, like, Godzilla's about to get a one-up on her. Superman comes in and punches him. And is like, so is there any reason you guys didn't want me to help out?
See what happens is, like, Batman wants to kill Godzilla. But then the Martian Manhunter mind melds with Godzilla, and it turns out Godzilla's mom's name is Martha. And so, suddenly...
I feel like Superman should come in, then John Jones should come in and be like, alright, I'm in here to settle things. And maybe we can be like, he was off monitoring some other crisis and helping people evacuate from somewhere else. Or maybe Jean was overseeing the evacuations, and now that that's over, he can kind of come into the fight. And he proves that Superman's faith in helping out wherever you can is justified because Godzilla's been manipulated and is not this evil, dangerous creature that's going to wipe out all of humanity as Batman thinks is the potential. And I feel like, people complained in BVS that Batman feeling that way about Superman was unfounded. I was one of the people who felt that way. But I feel like when you have a situation like this, where it's a giant monster destroying his home city, it's a little different.
I don't know if I would say that Batman's distrust of Superman was unfounded. Perhaps he was a bit overzealous.
No, his wanting to kill him was unfounded, because he doesn't know what the situation was. He doesn't look into it as far as we know, and then he just decides he's gonna kill this dude. So I feel like him feeling that way about a giant monster destroying a city is more believable, because it's not human. So his no kill rule doesn't apply. And I mean, you can argue that with Superman, but it's still a dude. But Godzilla's obviously a big monster, so it's different. So his rule doesn't apply.
It would be a cool sequence.
What?
So the device that Dr. Doc is using to bring Godzilla to Gotham City, to draw him near Gotham City, is in Arkham Asylum, right? So you have them figure that out, right? And like, Batman could be there, or you could just do it with like the sidekicks or whatever, like Nightwing and Robin or whoever you wind up having there. So they go into Arkham to take out the thing or whatever, and then fucking Dr. Daka, just like as they're walking through the asylum, just fucking opens all the gates, just fucking opens all the cells.
That'd be awesome.
Villains everywhere.
For sure. All right, D. I think we've kind of got it. And I mean, next time I think what we should definitely pick up on is Eulicles finds out about all the manipulation that went down and does something about it.
Well, the next one we do, Bill, we've actually got to talk about scheduling when we get done recording this, because the next one is actually the one that we're going to need Andres for.
All right. So we'll talk about this in a few minutes.
The next one is really a big deal, actually. Super excited.
Well, right before we announce that, is there anything else you wanted to toss in there about Godzilla versus DC? How do you think we should end it? How do you think Godzilla should be pulled out?
Well, I think eventually they destroy the thing that Dr. Daka has, so now Godzilla isn't really being like manipulated in any way, and they've sort of got him restrained. So I think he would just sort of like fuck off until he gets sucked into the next dimension.
Maybe Green Lantern is like, I've got him in like this big green vault, and I can hold him for a while. And Superman's like, how long? And he's like, I don't know, maybe like 20 minutes. Or no, maybe like 12 hours. Let's say. I think that's more realistic given he's experienced and he's good at being a Green Lantern.
Or if they put him in
Godzilla starts to pound on it, and then he's like, okay, never mind. Maybe an hour. Maybe I could hold this for an hour. And then Godzilla keeps pounding and pounding.
They could put him in some sort of a containment unit that I don't know where they get it from. Fucking maybe Star Labs gives it to him.
I feel like GL's the best bet for them, because it's the containment is not based on any physical means. It is, and it's you can produce it on the fly.
What I'm saying is we need a way for them to conceivably like permanently restrain him.
I don't think they should get the chance to even think about that. I feel like
but my idea for like a cool ending would be like they get him contained and they're like, all right, it's fucking over. We got him. He's not getting out of this. And then at that moment he gets pulled into the next dimension, and so they're just sort of left there with their jaws open, like where the fuck did he go? Like,
all right, well, I've got a more in the moment way of doing that without having to explain where we get a big containment unit. So again, GL's got him in like this vault, and he's starting to realize that he can't hold him for very long, and he's like, all right, I'm only going to be able to hold him for a few minutes. And he keeps pounding and pounding and pounding, and then the vault cracks, and he's like, I'm out of power, I can't do it anymore. And then the thing comes down because he's been GL's been fighting and everything, so he's tired. Give him cred. And then Godzilla's not in there. There's nothing there. And they're like, oh, what? Did you disintegrate him? And he's like, I didn't do anything. Like, I lost power. Like, I'm done. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's more kind of dramatic.
Green Lantern's tired, he just saw the color yellow, so he's really wiped out. And like, and then he just fucking, I like it that he just disappears and they don't know what the fuck's going on. Yeah, because there's no Ulysses there this time to explain it to anybody.
Exactly. That sounds good. I think that sounds great. We had some very vague details on that. I'm glad we came up with some cool stuff. I think we actually came up with
a more airtight idea of what this one is going to look like than we even did with like the Marvel one or the Power Rangers one. Like,
we're dealing with characters that we're more familiar with.
Yeah, I guess.
Largely. Well, we're focusing on Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, so we're kind of basing it on stuff we're familiar with. But anyway, so that's pretty much it. So, D, what's the next one that you were tantalizingly teasing before?
Okay, the next one is a big deal because it's the first and only time in the entirety of our Godzilla Odyssey lineup that we're doing a 3-way crossover.
Oh, boy! The big turning point in every relationship.
Indeed. So basically the idea is that Godzilla's travel through time, I mentioned this a little bit in the DBZ episode, is like, in that we described it as like every time he travels to another dimension, it's like a cannonball, like going through the hull of a ship, and it leaves like cracks and shit. So this isn't just a matter of Godzilla going from dimension to dimension, it's a matter of like the universe, reality itself is sort of cracking around him, and so as a result of that, we're actually going to have 3 different universes converge on one another and have a 3-way crossover for the first time.
No, it's 2.
2, right, because Godzilla's whole universe doesn't come with him. You're right. So anyway, 2 universes sort of smacking into each other. And so the question on everybody's minds, obviously, right now is, well, who are the 2 things you're crossing him over with? Well, what we have here is a crossover of the 3 biggest names in Japanese entertainment. And I mean big.
Hideki, the Mario guy, the Metal Gear Solid guy.
The 3 biggest tokusatsu franchises under one roof. We're going to have Godzilla, Gamera, and Ultraman next time on Godzilla Odyssey.
That's a big one, man. Ooh. I feel like, and it's weird, because I feel like I'm going to have the least to do with that one story-wise. Like, I'm kind of just, like, that's going to be the first one where I'm just going to kind of sit here and let you guys go, and I'll just be like, yup.
I feel like you have enough of an understanding of Ultraman now that you can contribute.
Yeah, like I've bought stuff with Ultraman's name on it.
Like, used to, it was like you knew Godzilla and you knew Gamera, and it was like Ultraman, you thought he was a robot, but you kind of knew what it was about. Now you know a little bit more about that universe than you used to. So
definitely to talk about it for 40 minutes, however long that is. This one was 53, so it's a little longer than the last one, but still shorter than a usual podcast of ours. So all's well that ends well. So that's gonna do it.
8 out of 12, so we're getting near the end, kids.
We are. We've kept up with this, which is nice. We don't always do that. So
especially if we wind up doing the 2-parter as just one video, which we probably will do. It's only going to be 11.
I imagine so. Yeah.
It's only going to be 11 videos in total, so it's about over.
And then we're going to do one. We're going to retroactively do like the history of our Godzilla. So I think that'll be fun.
And then we'll never associate with it again.
Yeah, we'll abandon it. So looking forward to it next time. That's going to do it for issue 7 of Godzilla Odyssey Retrospective. Until next time, I'm Bill Worster, aka Zazubaar.
I'm Super DM64, and we're going to go record DFOS now.
Yes, exactly. We're literally jumping right into doing an episode of the Demons from Outer Space right after this. So we'll see you in the next dimension or podcast.